So our next speaker, who will probably give me way more of that than I can handle in one day, is James Calaway, who's the chairman of the Center for Houston's Future, and a pretty interesting businessman who knows a lot about this city.
It's great to be here today. I, like all the rest of you, are a bit overwhelmed with all the wonderful information, and I've been reflecting on it and trying not to come into this presentation with a pre-canned set of statements and more react to all the different ideas that have been put forward. Let me just start off by saying that I think that at a fundamental level for Houston, and I think about Houston for the last 15 years, at the fundamental level, in my opinion, we must find a way to be more deeply and completely committed to the urbanization of this region. That's at the core of everything. You know, I remember my friend Scott Ziegler, who, I don't know if you know the firm Ziegler Cooper, the big architecture firm in this city. You know, Scott and I are good friends, and he and I are sitting around talking about things like energy, water use, etc. And I think he's one of the largest architects for high-rise living. And he said, well, look, those things can be addressed pretty readily by moving people from single-family homes into high-rise living. And it's really what was just being talked about. He said, because if you look at the efficiency from a point of view of water use, energy use, etc., those things are readily addressed by that. You know, and I was just struck, by the way, my wife and I leave this very hot city every year, and for the last few years since our kids were grown, we had the advantage of moving to different cities around the world. And it's kind of fun to get to do that, so I'll go to a different city, park myself right in the middle of it, and spend the next month or so walking around the city, examining the city. And I just came back from spending that time in Toronto. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, in a way, Toronto is a beautiful example of what we could be thinking about. I mean, Toronto, while it, of course, has the lake, which we don't, and so it's bounded to some extent by a lake, but other than that, it's basically on a pretty much a flat, sort of boundless surface with farmland as far as you can see on most sides. So, like us, it's not like Hong Kong where, you know, you got to go up because there's no place to go. Basically, it can just sprawl out if it wants to. And by the way, for many years, it was exactly doing that. It was just sprawling out, lots of single-family development. But there were policy decisions that were made in Toronto. Very serious policy, political and social decisions said, you know what? That's not sustainable. That's not going to work for us. And so they started making it on a very proactive basis, saying, we as a region are going to make it harder. We are going to make it more expensive. We are going to make it difficult to allow single-family development sprawling out all across our farmland. They just said that. And they put the policies in place, put teeth into it politically. The result, if you haven't been there, it would blow your mind. I thought I was in Chongqing, China or something. They literally, on every single corner of that city, right now, as we sit here, with my own eyes, I've seen it. On every corner of the downtown area, there is between a 50, 60-story high-rise, beautiful architecture, going up right now, somewhere between 50 and 100, right now, high-rises for residential living, right this minute. They are taking the entire waterfront, which was built with with very little consideration for human beings, by the way, and ripping the whole thing up and putting in gorgeous walking areas with beautiful architecture all along. All of this, by the way, being done with a human focus. Now, I know that sounds a little loosey-goosey, but it was impressive to me. They did not allow for all these buildings to be square, ugly buildings. They had some architects that thought about the long-term beauty of what this city might look like. So when you see these buildings, they're architecturally fascinating. By the way, same thing in Sydney. If you go to Sydney, you'll see it there too. They didn't allow for people to have little tiny walkways that, with concrete and some silly little thing. They made sure that there were big, broad sidewalks, and they made sure that there were pocket areas for people to sit in the shade with beautiful art happening all around them, so that by the time this city gets rebuilt, and it's happening right now, 5 years from now, you won't even recognize a place like Toronto. That city will have gone from being sort of kind of like us to becoming a much, much more powerful, sustainable city where people from all over the world, when they go there, will say, that's the kind of city I want to be. That's the kind of place that I want to live. That's the kind of place I want to work. And in the context of the ability to pick where the heck you want to be is rising. I mean, it is growing. This issue about how we make this a beautiful city and an urban city is a crisis, and we are running out of time. Other cities around the world are out competing us in this area. Our downtown is boring. It's not alive. You go down there and you feel it. It doesn't work right. I mean, we think we're lucky if we get one high-rise going up, maybe two. And in other cities, there's 100. And we say that we're winning. I don't think so. So I think we need to get serious about this. I think we need to start putting in place a different governance structure. I think we need to start putting in place a way to discourage this continued sprawl. I think we need to make a commitment to define what we mean by our urban core. We need to say what is the area that we believe is our urban core, and we need to get on with it. It drives me crazy, and it's an attitudinal thing around here. It drives me nuts that every 6 feet, go look at it, every 6 feet of our curbs are broken in this city. Every one of them. Except for River Oaks, by the way, for some reason. And I figured out how they figured out to get all their curbs fixed. Even in Southampton, where I live, we have every 6 feet broken. They have better politics or something. But I can only imagine when you move into less quality areas or neighborhoods with less money, how bad the infrastructure looks. It's disrespectful. It says something about ourselves. It says we want the cheap path out here, that somehow let's do it the cheapest, most efficient way possible, but not with a consideration for the long term. It says something about us politically. It says something that we need to reevaluate. So I want to really emphasize that point. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, and I think it was missing this morning. It's a sustainable city, a sustainable region is not just about water and electricity and waste disposal, et cetera, et cetera. It's about human development. It's human capital. That's been missing here. And by the way, that's where I spend most of my time. We have a massive problem about our human capital from the point of view of sustainability. We have the highest uninsured rate in the city that's the world's largest medical center. Is there something perverse about this to you? Is there something perverse that we talk proudly that we're the center for medical technology and services, and also at the same breath say we have the highest uninsured rate? Other than, I think it's McAllen just beat us or something like that. Some incredible issue. We have we know that most women have to work in this city. We know it. There's no doubt about that, and it's not going to change. And yet only 15% of the children who are so poor, I mean at 185% of the poverty level poor, we're talking dirt poor, only 15% of the children in this region who would qualify for child subsidy, for child care, only 15% get it because we run out of money after that. So the other 85%, we don't even know what's happening to those children. And then we wonder why they come to our schools and we're in trouble. So there's a lack of commitment to the development of our people and a lack of commitment to our children. There's a lack of commitment to the health and welfare of our people. And by the way, in the end, and I've worked on this for 15 years, in the end, you always come to the same problem, which is we've got the wrong political leadership in Austin. They're the ones holding us back. They keep saying, no, we want a cheap way out. We want to keep, the most important thing is no new taxes, even in the face of these incredibly devastating situations with regard to our people. Okay? This is not sustainable. This is not going to work. So I would say to you in conclusion that we have to do what Michael said, which is we have to find a way, and we need to do it now, to do like Toronto or other great cities have done. And that is to be serious about the densification, not just densification of our region, but the densification in a human way that makes it come alive. That you know, somebody said, 10 years ago when I was running the Center for Houston Future, we kept talking about this saying quality of life, quality of life, quality of place, talking about it. And I kept thinking to myself, what in the heck is that? What is it? And one day, I was walking through Central Park. Never forget it. I was walking through Central Park trying to get a little exercise because I'm a little overweight. Walking along, and it was on a beautiful middle of the day. I had a break between meetings. And I was in the sculpture garden where they have the poets and writers. I don't know if you've ever been in there. I'm walking along, and I hear in the back, on my left ear, I'll never forget, I hear this tango music going on. Tango music. I'm like, what the hell is that? So I just kind of followed the path to like getting closer to the music. And finally I found myself standing, and there was Shakespeare, big statue of Shakespeare, and they had beautiful park benches around Shakespeare's statue. And there was a group of people that had gathered on a impulse. They meet apparently every Tuesday, and they had tango music, and everybody was dancing tango in the middle of the frickin' day. And I said to myself, now that is quality of life. That is what I'm talking about. And when I was just in Toronto, just came back, you know what they did? Because they have this density, because they have this sense of place that they're creating. There was life on the streets. There was lots of life on the streets, all kinds of life on the street. It was buzzing. And because of that, you know what they did? They were able to go and sprinkle all over downtown. Must have been 100 of them. Stand-up pianos, for God's sake, bolted down to the ground and painted them these crazy colors, and they opened them up every day, and anybody could go and just sit down and start playing the damn piano. So you'd see this little kid sitting there playing chopsticks, and then you go 3 blocks and some woman was playing Rachmaninoff for you on the streets. And I said, that's quality of life. That's what we need. We need life in this city. And we're not going to get it the way we're doing it right now. We're not getting there. And it's not going to happen without a fundamental different worldview. And we have to also deal with people issues and make this a just and fair and a place that has equal opportunity because we're committed to our people. Those are the things that I think make for a great sustainable city. Thank you.